There was this writer named Tony Harrison in the UK, this poet who, like, a big name newspaper approaches him and says, like, you know what? We want you, Tony, to write a poem for our newspaper. And he says, I will on one condition. They're like, what's that? And he says, that you will put me on the front page of the newspaper. I will not be in the book section. I will not be in the art section. And they said, like, and so then they threw a flak vest on him, and then they sent him to a civil war that was happening at the time. And so he's in there embedded with a bunch of soldiers, and he ends up writing this poem about a soldier that he saw who is like riding this tricycle around that he just found, like with a gun strapped to his back. And that appeared on the front of the paper. And I was like, holy crap.
Damn.
Wow. He refused to be put in a corner. He refused this tiny part of the world, this tiny thing where writers can be safe. They're safely quarantined. We might consider ourselves to be writers, like we've got this corner of the world that we call literature, you know, this protected space. And I found myself becoming tremendously dissatisfied. And then I started to take inspiration from writers who refused to stay in the corner.
I noticed a while back you published a couple books of poetry. Are you going to release any more books of poetry or anything like that in the future?
Okay, so my first book, like I thought I was going to write something timeless for all of eternity. I was so invested in my own idea of myself as a writer. And then when I wrote my second book, that started to break. There's this character who might as well be me, you know, like in the book, who has these like scraps of torn up writing on the floor. This person reaches down, grabs one of the scraps of paper, and realizes that it wasn't the writing. It was about what connected the writing to the world, you know, that it's the ligaments, you know, in your knee or something like that. It's that cartilage or something. It's this tremendously vulnerable, stretchable thing that connects your writing to the world. That's what made it. So then the third book is what I am doing in the world now. I am out on a limb. Like a lot of writers will not understand the path that it took for me to get here.
It's almost like a metamorphosis of you as a writer. Like at first it's the caterpillar. The second one is the cocoon as it starts to break down a little bit. By the third one, it's the butterfly. You know, I think where it does become relatable, I think is how many people in their early 20s.
I know everything. I know how the world works.
And I know what to do about this and this. And then by the time you get to your early 30s, you're like,
wow, a lot of that was wrong.
And you're like, how do okay, so maybe I don't know everything, and you start adjusting. And if your writing has its own flavor when you were younger and then it changes, people can see that change. I think that would be really cool.